Alright guys, I'm coming.
This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is
the JBU.Show featuring Austin
from the Miller Talk Podcast.
ALLAN,
the American Sincerest.
and now your host,
Cam Allen.
Alright, how's it going everybody? My name is Chris, and this is the JBU.Show. I apologize for the late start there. It is Monday after all, what can I say? Even late getting the intro out of the way for us. I'm sure I forgot to do something before the show started, so if you're used to watching somewhere and it's not on right now, I apologize. Of course, not that you'd hear it anyway, but I had my son asked me right before I came back here to get started for the show today if we could go for a walk, and of course, family's got to come first. So, on top of that, it's Monday and there's no news whatsoever. So I'm like scrambling to try and find stories at the last minute because I was already ill prepared. Good news, we're coming to you tonight. Full 1080p, 60 frames. Hopefully it works out. We're going to see how it goes tonight. I've had it running for over an hour now to test it out. And let's see, we're less than 3% drop frames and 0 packet loss. So all that means that it theoretically is working out like it's supposed to. And hopefully everything will turn out okay. Let's see, I got to figure out how to get this all set up here so it's not in my way. And there's like no good way to do that. Okay, we'll just have to go like that. In light of last night's episode that went long and we had a nice big show, appreciate everybody that watched. But we watched a video from the Moody Institute that was relating some stories from the Bible to some science lessons, particularly physics. And it was interesting from both a physics perspective and from a religious perspective. So, you know, whether one covers you or one doesn't matter. But I found this video today, much shorter, it's only 2 minutes, of a absolute genius on the subject who I think settles the debate once and for all and answers once and for all whether or not God is real. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to let him go. You know you're talking to a genius when he starts off with his hand up his butt.
It wasn't just a big bang at the beginning of the universe and created all of it. It was God who made the Big Bang. I think when he said, "Let there be light," there was a big bang. The best scientists in the world, like Newton, Galileo, his whole name is Galileo Galilei. And they actually gave almost the whole world questions about that there was a creator called God that made everything. And then people can study about it. Gas giants are actually like big planets that are made out of gas. Gases like hydrogen and helium. The gas giants in our solar system are Jupiter
Sorry about
and
that.
Saturn. Do you know why Uranus and Neptune are gas giants? Because they're ice giants and they're really far away from the sun and they're super cold. They also have methane, which is what makes Uranus and Neptune blue. But I think Neptune is darker blue because it has more methane.
Okay.
Do you know that if Jupiter had 80 times more mass than it has right now, it would become a star like our sun? Probably not as big as our sun.
What's the biggest star?
Stevenson 2-18.
Yeah.
I think it's WOHG64. The sun.
I
can
cannot
fit
confirm or cannot
1,000
or deny
Jupiters inside
on that
of
one.
Gravity is what makes things.
Yeah.
If there was no gravity, it would just.
Don't wake up Hunter.
God made stuff so perfectly that couldn't have been done on accident.
There you have it. That couldn't have been done on accident. I don't think we're going to get any more definitive proof than that right there. So why don't you just take that, atheists? Come on, the kid is cute. It was worth listening to. And that is one hell of an intelligent kid. I will definitely say that. It's amazing how quickly kids can pick stuff up and just how I hate to say how smart they can be because of course they're smart, but how quickly really that they can pick things up when you let them learn what they want to learn. Our education system, of course, we pretty much all agree is terribly messed up. And there are a lot of ways in which it is messed up. I won't pretend it's, one way or another or anything like that. But I think that there's good evidence to suggest that letting your kids learn and guiding them a little bit still, I'm not suggesting no guidance whatsoever, but letting them pick what they want to learn might actually get them to a better place faster. You want to learn about sharks this week? Fine. Everything we do, from math, science, English, all going to be about sharks. You can do a report on sharks. There's your English. You can do math with sharks, maybe some with their teeth. I don't know. That obviously won't be as creative. Math is still math. And then just learning all about the different types of sharks and all of that. And yeah, maybe we're not learning about some of the things, maybe we're not learning history this week because we're focusing on sharks. But next week, maybe we won't learn about science because we pick something about history. And so you can help guide them a little bit to make sure that you're not only learning about sharks, obviously. But it's a theory that I heard floated a long time ago. And it's quite an interesting one because there's no doubt anybody that has had a kid knows, when learning about something is the kid's idea, when it's something they chose to learn about, they'll soak up anything. When it's something you're forcing them to learn about, they'll soak up what you make them, but really not anymore. And there is kind of a weird, what would you call it? I don't think dissidence is the right word. Let's see, I'm gonna do my own check real quick. Harsh, disagreeable, combination of sound or discord, lack of agreement, consistency, or harmony. I guess you could say dissonance. That kids have when they get out of school. How was your day in school? Fine. What'd you do? Every kid, every day, that's the only answer you will get. What'd you learn about? No, really, what'd you learn about? Nah. Every day. And I remember being that way when I was in school. The last thing I wanted to do when I got out of school was talk about school. And I'm not saying it's a torture chamber, but I think that there is something to that. If the kid was actually having fun and excited, they wouldn't be able to wait to tell you about it. You hear that kid was constantly, because he was so excited that he was having to catch his breath to tell you about it? When was the last time your kid came home trying to catch their breath to tell you about something? Probably a field trip, right? Conversations like this that are far more useful, in my opinion, than whatever politician said today. And yes, if there was something in the news, that's probably what we'd be talking about. But I try to remind myself of that as often as possible because certainly when I have some time to, or rather when, we're making some money off the show, which is always, of course, the goal at some point, and I can hire some people to help with research, if and when that happens, I definitely would like to move the show's direction away from just what's going on in the news to what are some tangible, what are these tangible things that we can do to actually move conversation, to actually move policy forward, because we're just at a stalemate right now, and we're only focused on the things that we will not get past each other. And on one hand, we're not going to be able to get anywhere until we can agree on the Constitution again, and not just agree on the Constitution, but agree on what it means, because progressives have distorted the meaning of the words of our founders so radically that even most people, on the left and independents who are usually on the left and just don't want to say it, you don't actually know what it means. You might say you support the Constitution, you might like the idea of free speech, but do you know what it actually means? Do you know why the Second Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with rights for a state or rights for a militia and is instead very explicitly rights for an individual? Because there's no ambiguity. The people trying to inject ambiguity into these things, they're very good at doing so. They're able to find all sorts of historical references that help inject that ambiguity. But when you go back to the only historical references that matter, that is the people that wrote the law and that passed the law, they're very clear about why they did it. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of quotes from founding fathers. And when I say founding fathers, I mean men that signed the Declaration of Independence, rather. On the Second Amendment specifically, and that it conveys an individual right that every man, woman, and child ought to not only be armed, but trained in the use of arms so that they can be effective. There was a law less than 10 years after the signing of the Bill of Rights that demanded every man 18 years old to 45 years of age own a gun and a sufficient amount of ammo and a sufficient amount of gunpowder and a sufficient pack to carry it all in and a few other, odds and ends. What would today be a bulletproof vest and, a flashlight and things like that. So until we can come back together on the meaning of these things, also, I'm not sure that we can move forward. But even once we do that, we need to stop letting these politicians divide us specifically on the things we're not willing to compromise on. Because there's a whole range of other things, like we're seeing right now with the SAVE Act, that we agree on. 80% of Americans agree on the SAVE Act. In order to register to vote, you got to prove you're a citizen. That's it. That's all it is. It doesn't have a bunch of secret shit shoved in it, like most bills do. Yet all this ambiguity has been created by the left. Why? The only answer left on the table is they want illegals to be able to vote. Whether or not they do doesn't matter. Why else would you oppose this? Because the claims that it's disenfranchising or any of that, it's nonsense. We all know it's nonsense because we all agreed before this bill was ever written on what it means to prove you're a citizen. Birth certificate. Any document that clarifies citizenship, where you were born. Frankly, birth certificate in and of itself should be fine. Not hard to get. For anybody. Anyway. Hopefully you like ranty days, because there's not a whole lot, like I said, to talk about in the news. Although we do have some loose ends to tie up from other stories in the week. Trump said this either today or last night, I can't remember, to be honest, about the next would-be assassin that we talked about yesterday on the show.
I don't know how long I'll be around. Got a lot of people gunning for me, don't I? Huh? But I will not forget them. I'm never going to forget them. I don't know how long I'll be around. Got a lot of people gunning for me, don't I? Huh?
One would wonder, what is the record for attempts on a president's life? Now look, this last attempt was less successful than the first two, but it was an attempt nonetheless. And he's not the first or only president to have attempts on his life, obviously. He's certainly the first one. Well, he's the second one, I guess, to take a bullet and not die. Third one. He's the third one to take a bullet and not die. Wow. A lot of people shoot American presidents. That's sad. And if you're wondering who, of course you have Ronald Reagan. And then, was it Teddy Roosevelt? that took a bullet and then finished his speech? Yeah, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. Kind of a shame looking backwards, but oh well. History is what history is. Okay. Let's see what else we got for today. Yep, another tie-up from yesterday. Now look, I cannot prove this at all. I'm waiting for some more legitimate sources to report it. This comes from Dom Lucre at Dom_Lucre, Lucre on Twitter. A guy that has broken important stories before, a guy that also shares nonsense every now and then. So, at least in my opinion. I don't know, how much credibility you can put one way or another. You'll just have to decide for yourself, I suppose. But this is what he posted. He posted this video. And supposedly what this is CJNG. I'm going to turn it down since it's not in English. This is allegedly the CJNG gang in Mexico, or cartel, whose leader was killed, El Mencho, yesterday, announcing their new leader.
Cobardes, mata inocentes. Como el general hizo buen trabajo al retirar al vendido corrupto del teniente Navidad, que trabajaba por ustedes y levantó y les entregó a la municipal de Cotija. 3 jóvenes y por medio de la policía de los Reyes.
How come gangbangers can have scars?
Ahora sacas esa manta, bicho cobarde, corriente mugroso. Traidor, ten respeto y da
kidding, scars are one of the ugliest guns ever made.
Ya no te quieren en los Reyes ni en ningún
Sorry,
lugar.
FN guys.
General Ernesto Geminiano Jiménez. Nosotros no tenemos nada que ver con esa manta. No nos metemos.
Okay, so allegedly, what he is saying there is that an American named Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, alias O3, has been named the new leader of CJNG. He is El Mencho's stepson and controls the cartel's armed wing group, Elite, with a $5 million U.S. bounty already existing on him. He was born in Santa Ana, California, and is an American citizen by birth. See the problem with this birthright citizenship thing? Mexico's deadliest cartel is now reportedly being operated by an American from Orange County, California. Again, I cannot prove that this is true. But if it is, it's an interesting time. Because there is no doubt this couldn't have happened had we gotten this border stuff under control long ago. This is one of the most ruthless cartels in South Central America. South and Central America. As well as in the United States at this point. Good news is if he is actually in the United States and or an American citizen, it would be awful dumb of them because now we have the authority to go after him, and you can bet your ass Trump will. Again, you don't have to like Trump, but I don't know who is opposed to going after cartels. If you are, then screw you. Because if you had the slightest clue the type of evil that exists in these cartels in Mexico, and you were still willing to say that it is not worth destroying that level of evil, then I don't trust you. Period. I'm not going to get into it, obviously, because I don't need to. You can find it. It's not hard to find. If you want to find the information, it's out there. Anyway, what's What do we got next here? West Virginia apparently is introducing a bill to sell machine guns to American citizens. I love that. Gavin Newsom made some mistakes today. What is it with Democrats that they spend so much time pretending to be these anti-racists, which just means racist. But they spend so much time trying to be these anti-racist, pro-minority, and then they always end up saying the most racist shit. I don't know why it happens. I just know it does. Gavin Newsom did that again today. New York City, I got a video of some police officers that were getting harassed, and I want to make a note to police officers across the country if you happen to be listening to this. Margot Kaplan is trending right now for a story that was posted. This is from October 2014, but we should not forget it. And that's important. I guess we can take care of that right now because there's really no story here other than this headline and the fact the New York Times actually wrote it. And that there is a faction on the left that believes this. It is in the op-ed section, but that's as much credit as I will give to New York Times. Professor who said pedophiles should be called minor attracted persons agrees to resign. This suggests an attack on academic freedom, they said. I have also been attacked based on being Jewish and a member of various LGBTQ communities. The personal attacks have also included threats on my life. That's obviously somebody that's trying to highlight the Jewish reference there. Look, I had somebody comment on the show yesterday that, you know, the Jews were behind everything, basically. And frankly, like, sorry, guys. If you're looking for somebody that's going to blame the Jews for everything, I'm not your guy. Do I think that Mossad and Israel do some shady things around the world? Yes. Just like our government. I don't know that anybody else does it to the same level that our government and probably Israel does. The Soviet Union used to, but I don't know what they're capable of anymore. Obviously, most of their efforts are focused in Ukraine right now. Israel is a very small country with a very small population. I believe they are 30th in size. No. They're lower than that. They have to be way lower than that. 30th in GDP to population maybe is what it was. I did a breakdown on this a while back on the audio podcast where we looked at the GDP, the wealth of the average Jewish person in Israel, the size of the country, the assets of their military. They have a powerful military for a small country. They're still a small country, roughly equivalent to South Korea. Are they capable of doing things? Yes. Are they capable of running absolutely everything? Let's be realistic. Not to mention the fact that if this country, if all of the people that run all of the world banks were loyal to this nation, because there's always the question of the Zionist nation state and the religion. I don't doubt that there are many religious Jews in positions of power. I do doubt how many are ruthlessly what's the word I'm looking for? Ruthlessly loyal to the Zionist state of Israel or whatever. I'm not familiar with all these terms exactly. I believe Zionism, that's the belief that Jews deserve to be in Israel and that is their land and all of that. and that they basically can do whatever they want to anybody else that isn't Jewish and all these sorts of things. Anyway, if all of the world banks belong to this little nation state, would it really be that poor? Because relatively speaking, it's considerably poorer than the United States, even on a percentage basis or a per capita basis. It does about as good as an average European country. It's roughly the size of an average European country. That's it. Mossad is a very capable intelligence agency that, as Barack Obama would say, punches above their weight. But above their weight is still featherweight. And frankly, I think that a lot of things that our government does is conveniently blamed on Mossad. I also think that a lot of conspiracy theories that just don't have a lot of basis in reality are blamed on Mossad too. And I just, I don't know. Believe whatever you want, that's fine, but if you're looking for somebody that's going to blame them for literally everything in on the planet that is bad, there's plenty of evil people out there. There's lots of them. I don't have any particular issue with Israel other than we should not be supporting them financially. I will say that. We shouldn't be supporting any other country financially. Not for any extended period of time like we do for Israel. I don't mind doing joint operations when it serves a benefit for us, such as the strike that Trump did in Iran, but I wouldn't have been giving them all of our missile defense systems and all of that. They can buy them, but I wouldn't be giving them to them. The joint operation is fine so long as it was our decision, which for all ostensive purposes it was. I'm going to take this off screen. It just doesn't need to be on screen. But yeah, it just, as long as it was our decision, and as far as we can tell it was, and, they're not forcing our hand or anything, I don't mind doing joint operations as long as it serves a purpose of the American people. I don't mind that they're an ally. I just don't want to support them, and I don't want us making any decisions based on Israel's interest, only on ours. Israel can make decisions based on Israel's interest. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else there really is to say on it. If there's something else I'm forgetting, I feel like there's some other thing that I explicitly don't like about Israel that I can't remember, but whatever. I'm sure it'll come up again someday, but I figured I'd mention it since I got that comment yesterday. There's lots of bad people out there, and it's awful convenient to just say, oh, it's all these people in this one area way over here that I can't do anything about. It's just an excuse. Well, no, I mean, that's more of a one-to-one basis thing I was going to say. I condemn their radio attack, but I don't condemn their war in Gaza. In fact, I actually have a story from earlier in the week that we never got to about the war in Gaza. See if I can find it real quick. Numbers. Hamas's latest numbers debunk the genocide theory. And Rice's vow of vengeance and other commentary. I'm not sure what that's about in the story. I guess we'll find out. But this is what it says. Casualty data. And this is what I've said the whole time. Look, I think that Israel allowed itself to be attacked. You can't tell me that the best intelligence agency in the Middle East wasn't aware that terrorists were literally had a training camp were testing explosives and doing live fire training literally, a mile from their border. You can't tell me they didn't know. Now, does that make it their fault that they were attacked still? No, it doesn't. But I think that the Jewish people need to address that with Bibi, but that's their own problem. That said, regardless of how it happened, they were attacked. And that gives them the justification to respond and to end the threat. Who's, more guilty in this situation is an endless question that probably has no clean answer because it goes back so far and goes both sides so far. The fact is, Hamas keeps trying to attack. It's not Israel's fault that somebody weaker than them won't stop trying to attack. In my personal opinion, they have a right to end that threat and end it completely. Now, I will also say that we have gone past that point. I was good up until about a year. I was probably good until about 18 months or somewhere in there. But at that point, there's been virtually no progress made. I understand the issue where you've got about 1 million people that absolutely hate Israel and refuse to live in peace with them, but also nobody will take. And if you allow them to just keep living where they are on the border of Israel, they're just going to keep rebuilding and then launching rockets again. So I understand that there is a deep, complex issue here that is not as simple as just ending the war. I do understand that. And the Palestinian people, frankly, have no credibility whatsoever. The amount of times that they have lied to try and make Israel look bad, the amount of stories that they have claimed that have turned out to be false, etc., there's just no credibility there either. And I'm not particularly taking Israel's word for anything. I'm just not taking the Palestinians' word for anything either. But at some point, this has gone on long enough. They're not making any progress. They've leveled virtually every building in the place. What, now needs to come the hard work of figuring out what the fuck to do with all these people. And them failing to do that, I do think is a failure, and I do think is something that needs to be addressed. A genocide, though, it's just not. There's over 1 million people in Palestine. According to these numbers, there have been 68,000 deaths. 25,000 of those, which is, let me do the math on this. 25,000 deaths out of, what did I say, 68,800. So 36% were Hamas fighters, okay? Let's see. 10,000 are natural deaths. So 10,000 divided by 68.8. That's 15%. So now you're up to what? 50, 36 and 15. That would be, 51%. 51% of those deaths then are Hamas fighters or natural deaths, i.e. perfectly legitimate military deaths. Another 34,000 include civilians killed by Hamas and associated military groups and Israel. We have no way of parsing out what number of that other roughly 30% or 50%, was actually even Israel. And there's no question that Israel, like America, goes to lengths that no other nation on earth would go to avoid hitting civilians. Russia did not drop pamphlets in Ukraine before they started bombing it. In fact, when they did allow a bombing corridor to be set up under international law, which is when a country attacks, they're supposed to leave a very specified corridor to allow civilians to flee where they know they won't be bombed. At the same time, the Ukrainian military is de facto agreeing, in order for their civilians not to be bombed, not to use that corridor for military purposes. And if these stories were correct, Russia couldn't even do that much and did bomb the corridor a few times. So it's just not the same thing, right? Israel does go to incredible lengths, and you can say that's because they're already doing something wrong anyway. Fine. It's still not genocide. It just isn't. And the fact is, we gave them that land. And when I say we, I mean the freaking world agreed to give them that land. We've tried to make 1 million deals back and forth between both, including Israel conceding to every request of the Palestinians as far as the areas that they wanted and all of that. And only one side refuses. And then on top of that, they have tried to attack and lost many times over. And the only reason Israel wasn't allowed to completely vacate them from the land is because the rest of us went, well, you can't do that. Even though we would have done it. That's the way it works when you win a war. You get to dictate the rules. When Germany fell, what happened? The East and the West divided it up. And those Germans were now subjects. On the West, we didn't make them subjects because that's not who we are. But they did on the East. Nobody would have faulted us for doing it in the West. We won the war. We got to make the rules. So problems with Israel or not, fine. There are certainly things to complain about. The problem is people always tend to, it either has to be all or nothing. It's either everything Israel's ever done is good or everything Israel's ever done is evil. And I just don't see it that way. I see a country that has done a lot of things they probably shouldn't have, just like us. I also see a country that overall has just protected its people. And while there's a lot of speculation about things, speculation is not proof. And there's a lot of things that are speculated about Israel that they just frankly could not physically do. They don't have enough manpower, let alone money. Again, they supposedly run all of the world banks, yet are about as poor as the average European nation, which, by the way, is about half as rich, or half as poor, however you want to put it, as the average American. The average European lives on a minimum wage, an American minimum wage salary, and they pay higher taxes and have a higher cost of living. But sure, they just control everything. Whatever. I'm done talking about it. I don't care enough, frankly. That's part of it, is I just don't care. I care about America. I don't care enough about Israel to be mad about it one way or another. If we can directly prove or have at least undoubtedly good reason to believe they're involved in something specific that is directly harming Americans, okay, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. But there has to be that proof or that evidence there. There has to be. All right. Let's do this. I was going to take a break because I need a minute here to do a couple things. But instead of doing that, let's just watch a funny clip from the Chappelle Show. How about that? What's funny is it's more accurate now than it was at the time. I don't know if this is from the Chappelle Show, by the way. I just know it's David Chappelle, obviously. But I guess I don't know for sure that it's from the Chappelle Show.
Disgust me. You're goddamn right, I said it. If you knew just one of the things I was sworn to secrecy to, you would buckle under the goddamn pressure.
Mr. President. Like what?
How about this? I have here in my hand the cure for AIDS. We've had this for 25 years. Have a great weekend. Did I shock you? Are you crazy yet? Well, I have someone I'd like you to meet. Come on up here, Paula. America, I'd like you to meet my good friend Paula. And here's Paula again. And here's Paula one more time. We cloned these three bitches in a laboratory in Seattle some 19-odd years ago. Not only that, we added a pinch of black genes so that they could do things like this. Hit it, girls.
Running through the raindrops, wishing that you would stop.
That'll be enough. Thank you very much. All right, baby. Oh, hold on, Paula. Killed for AIDS. Sorry about last night. Freaked out yet? Have I blown your mind, or you think you can still handle my job? Because if you're cocky and you think that you got hold of this, I got some more information for you. Would you like to know who killed Kennedy?
Yeah. Yes. Who killed Kennedy?
You ready for the truth, America? Here it comes. Oswald killed Kennedy. That's right. Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy alone and by himself with a magic bullet. That's right, the bullet was actually magical. Magic does exist. We've known about this for some 2,000 years. I'm not finished yet. I have some more information that might startle you. The R. Kelly sex tape. That wasn't R. Kelly. It was me. That's right. I urinate on people when I have sex with them. I'm a disgusting human being, and I apologize to the people who I've hurt and peed on. Bet I blew your mind right there, didn't I? Well, I'm really on a roll, and I don't care because the world's going to end any day now. So I might as well introduce you to a good friend of mine, Bibble. Bibble, come on up here. America, this is Bibble. Bibble is a space creature that lives very far away in a galaxy called Nebulon 5. And he is solely responsible for the wave of technology we've seen over the last few decades. Cell phones, pagers, PlayStation 1 and 2. You might think it was the Japanese who were responsible, but anyone in the know knows that it was Bibble for shizzle and all by Bibble, because only Bibble can keep it so real. Hey, Bibble, is the spaceship ready? We're ready to get out. Okay, me and Bibble are about to leave, but before we go, I just want to say there's no hope for the planet Earth. There's no way to stop the asteroid, and you're all gonna die. Everyone except for me. And of course, Bibble, who's been so kind to let me accompany him on his spaceship. And I'm bringing those 3 cloned white women with me. Goodbye, America. I hope you all die in a fiery death when the meteor hits next Tuesday. Come on, Bibble, let's get out of here.
End of the world.
All right. Thank you for that brief minute you guys gave me there to get a couple things done so that we could get back on track here. Like I said, it's Monday, so I apologize that we're not up to the usual standards of, well, this. Having everything ready, at least. Okay, let's see what we got here. What else we got still? Any other updates from Mexico yesterday? I never found any other updates. Like I said, what appeared to happen yesterday was El Mencho was killed, and a bunch of cartel members had instructions that if the military was starting to make raids, to go and block the roads. Because as we saw, there were many fires clearly along roadways. Lots of buses that were pulled in front, lit on fire. Meant to, of course, create traffic jams, panic, right? There were some other things like the Costco caught on fire and stuff, and this might be an attempt to distract resources. There's a big Costco on fire, gotta divert some police and fire over there. But I don't think any of it was actually just retaliatory attacks. Is that good news? I mean, it's good news that a bunch of civilians didn't die. Bad news because it means if that is true, they are far more organized than you might suspect for a cartel. If these cartel members had the discipline to hear that a raid happened on their cartel and go do what they were pre-planned to do, which was create roadblocks, create distractions, and then wait for further instructions. That's almost state level of coordination. Almost. I'm not saying it must be state organized. I'm just saying, like, you don't usually see those kinds of coordinations except at the state level. You certainly don't typically see them in cartels and drug gangs, who are usually quite stupid. And as well as impulsive and stuff. And so it was no surprise to anybody yesterday that there was a bunch of chaos going on. But then as we actually started weeding through it, there was no actual, first there was reports that people were being killed at the airport. That didn't turn out to be true. There was instead just a rush of people from panic. It was reported that people were being kidnapped and shot all over the place and all of these things. In reality, what it came down to was a bunch of vehicles that were burned as roadblocks. And then one Costco that was burned. That's about it. There was a few small things here and there. There's a couple other fires that were set. But the goal of these fires did not seem to be destruction. If the goal was destruction, they would have caused a lot more, for sure. So I think this was just coordination. I think that's all it was. And they're kind of in a waiting pattern right now of, okay, what do we do next? That could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. I don't know. I do know that that kind of restraint is not something you typically see. And that is the biggest weakness of drug organizations like cartels and gangs and stuff in general, is that they don't really have a lot of coordination. They're usually pretty dumb. So I hate to give them any sort of like credit or anything. What I saw yesterday was not what was being reported. Let's see. What do we have here?
Let's talk about.
Oh God, an Asian kid. No reports of any Americans being hurt, by the way, that I have found, at least thus far, anyway. Okay, let's play this video real quick. Minute 29 seconds. Pretty brief. But it's a guy making a point about the kidnapping of Pauline. And, well, I'll save my thoughts for the end.
I really hope they find her, I truly do, but we can't ignore what we're actually learning in this situation. First, it was the doorbell that was recording, even though she didn't have a subscription. Now it's helicopters sniffing pacemakers from 1,000 feet in the air, and somehow we're being told it's just innovation. Just watch how this is framed. It's presented as heroic, cutting edge, life-saving. And emotionally, that works. Because when a story centers around rescuing an 84-year-old missing woman, nobody wants to be the person asking the hard questions. And that's exactly how narrative control works. A technology that could feel invasive is introduced as cool and innovative, almost safe. Aerial tracking becomes protection. Signal interception becomes urgent. And now surveillance is framed as compassion. And once something feels compassionate, that's when the scrutiny gets a lot softer. This tech didn't just get invented last week, y'all. It's just that now's the first time most of us are hearing about it. And the framing always matters. Because if it works with a missing person, what's going to define the boundary tomorrow? I'm definitely not trying to scare you. I'm trying to help you notice the patterns. Just pay attention to how powerful tools get introduced. That's usually where the shift happens. I can't wait to hear what you have to say in the comments. I'll see you there in a second.
I don't think he wants to hear what I have to say. But he's going to anyway. Okay. So here's my take on this. If you were not aware that this shit happens, if you were not aware that these things are already happening, and I'll be honest, I was still trying to clean up some stuff on the back, so I didn't hear everything he said. There might have been some conspiracy thrown in there. But as far as them being able to access any electronic device that you have, even post or pre or whatever, whether you thought it was recording or not, the fact that they can track your cell phone, the fact that they can track many different types of devices from satellite, let alone helicopter, it's all about how many resources they're willing to divert to you. If they're willing to divert any resource they have, there's almost nothing you can do to get away from the U.S. government at this point. If they're not willing to, which in most cases they can't, right? That's only reserved for the worst of the worst, or whatever, you know, as far as our government would say, the worst of the worst. But I almost wonder if this ALLAN show thing maybe had a connection. Maybe. Because it's, from the latest information that I saw, it's looking like a regular cartel kidnapping. A little too professional for your average Joes. And it would only make sense that they've been able to stay off the radar this long if they were able to get her across the border to Mexico, which she lived very close to. But I digress. The point is, as far as that video is concerned, they can track you via... Have you seen the movie Eagle Eye? We talked about this not too long ago. You know, with Shia LaBeouf. Here, let me jog your memory. Remember this movie? Well, if you're as old as me, at least.
Sorry. Hello?
The FBI will arrive at your apartment in 30 seconds. You must flee the premises.
Who is this? No, none of this is mine! FBI! Get down on the floor! I didn't do anything!
You know you got the wrong guy, right?
Oh, obviously.
Somebody set me up.
Here's the thing, Jerry. You're in a load of trouble, son. Time for your phone call.
We told you to run.
How'd you get on this phone? Who are you?
You have 10 seconds.
What the hell are you talking about?
Get down now. You have 4 seconds.
Well, that didn't quite explain as much about the movie as I was hoping it would. Let's see if one of these other ones does. But
What?
2 seconds, sorry.
what this movie was essentially based around was AI, actual artificial intelligence. Spoiler alert, if you didn't see the 20-year-old movie, it's a computer that's talking to him. No, it's the same clip we already saw. Okay. Let's see. If there's anything here. Nope, doesn't look like it. What's this last one? Does this explain anything?
Sales on beat.
No, just people floating in the air.
Somebody set me up. Why is that so hard for you to understand?
Somebody.
Yeah, a woman called me on the phone. She told me I was going to be arrested.
A woman. Your mom? Who?
I don't know. If I knew, I would tell you. I don't know.
Here's the thing, Jerry. Who do you think's winning? Your Miranda rights are my right to keep you in this room as long as I want to. I don't care if you tell me the truth about your brother. I don't care who you work for. Because no matter what you tell me, you're in a load of trouble, son.
Are you moving to call me on the phone? Did you call me on the phone? The woman. She called you too.
Drive.
Get out now! Get out of the vehicle! Why is this happening? Go! Who are you? Why are people shooting at us? Drive the car!
Accelerate. Turn right 200 feet. You have a pursuer. Maintain a speed of 50 miles an hour. Stay in the second lane on the right.
The light's red.
Accelerate now.
There you go. That gives you a little better idea. That movie is not entirely fiction anymore. Now, can they do stuff on the fly that much? Not quite yet. But they can track you via virtually any camera that is in existence that is connected to the internet. They can listen to anything you say. Even devices that are not connected to other devices are listening to you, even just for ad purposes. I've had a conversation in text message, never a word out loud, on an Apple smartphone, on an iPhone, while I was nowhere near, not even the same room, let alone the same building, as a Windows computer, neither of which are logged into similar accounts, because it wasn't my phone, but it was somebody that was connected to me. My phone was in my pocket, and had a conversation, a brief conversation with a buddy of mine, where he told me he wanted to buy a Cessna, which he had never mentioned ever once before. We had never talked about getting a small pilot's license, nothing like that. And he just decided to tell me, yeah, by the way, I'm thinking about getting a small pilot's license and maybe a little Cessna or something. I didn't think anything of it. Till I sat down on my computer later that night and got a video suggested as soon as I opened the browser how to get your small pilot's license. There was no connection between those two devices because it wasn't my phone. I wasn't in the room with it. I wasn't connected to the same internet. I'm sure that phone has been connected to my Wi-Fi. Obviously, my friend texts me on my phone as well. My phone connects to the Wi-Fi. But one is Apple, one is Windows. And that's why there's no like overlapping accounts and stuff. I try not to do that whenever possible. It's not shocking that my phone was listening or paying attention to what was being typed. And gave me an ad relevant to it. That's been happening for a long time. What was shocking was that nothing was mentioned out loud. It wasn't mentioned on my device. It was a third friend's device. I just happened to be holding that phone, so my phone was in my pocket within the vicinity. And the ad showed up on a computer that had no connection to either of those two phones. No shared accounts. The only thing we shared was Wi-Fi at some point, but not at the time of the conversation. If it's connected to the internet, it tracks you. It tracks your location. It tracks your oxygen levels. It tracks your altitude, longitude, latitude, speed. I'm trying to think of what else. Like 50 different metrics, right? Any website you go to, anything you type in, your heart rate, if it's connected via smartwatch or you're touching the thing on your phone if it has one of the built-in touch ones. Any of that stuff. All those little terms and agreements that you just hit accept on, most of it you agree to. Now, you don't agree to give it to the government. You agree to give it to the company and let the company do whatever they want with it. And the government learned, well, if we just put pressure on the companies, they can just give us this stuff. The person never knows about it, and there's no issue. Because they gave the company permission. It would be between me and the company, not between me and them, meaning the government and you. And therefore, there's no civil rights violation. Should we allow this to continue? No. But the fact is, they've been doing it for a long time. Remember when Obama said the NSA never spied, let alone was collecting mass data on Americans, period? That was a lie. Remember? There's a guy living in exile in Russia today, Edward Snowden, because he proved it. And I don't care what anybody says, that guy is an American hero. Did he compromise some American assets? He might have. But when our government is doing something like collecting mass data on all Americans, they deserve to be compromised. And here's the thing. This is where it gets really scary. Back when that was happening with Obama, it wasn't such a big deal because they still had to individually choose to focus on you. The storage centers didn't exist, so they couldn't keep years and years and years worth of data. Now they can. Now, your data from 2007, trust me, they have it. Every email change you've made, every fake alias you've used online doesn't matter. Unless you're hacker-level skills. Trust me, theirs are better. It doesn't matter if you use Tor. If they want to uncover your real IP through Tor, they can. And that it used to be they could supposedly only do that while you were connected. Now they can do it post. Regardless, the point is, all that data is a lot. Collecting all that information on 330 million Americans, collecting it through 50 different companies and thousands of different devices and types of devices and all of that. A lot of data. And that data is not useful unless you can archive and access it. Guess what AI allows? Basic AI, not real artificial intelligence, basic AI like we have today. It allows them to go, I want to see this person. And it can pull up any bit of data that they want. Thankfully, the government sucks at being efficient. And so it's only that easy if they're willing to divert every resource to it. But even a regular cop can find out your phone if they know a crime happened. Like, let's say there was a break-in at the local Baskin Robbins late one night. They go to Google and they say, I need all the phones that pinged within 500 yards of where this crime took place. Google gives it to them without question. Now, they give it to them with just MEID numbers. Because theoretically, that's protecting your data. And then, when the cop narrows down, okay, it was this MEID number that was in the Baskin Robbins at 1 a.m. There's no reason for that. Therefore, or let's say it was in the middle of the day and it was robbed. Don't have a description of the guy. Okay. At 2:57, while the place was being robbed, what MEID numbers were in the building? Once they have that information and they've narrowed it down to a small enough group of people, so let's say there were 10 people in the store plus the robber, they now go to Google and say, I need you to unmask these 11 people. Google does it without a warrant. Not that it would be hard for them to get one if they needed to. In that case, Google might ask for a warrant just to cover their ass. Might, just because there's, 10 innocent people involved and only one guilty. But in most cases, they'll just send it to them. That's it. That's the only thing standing in between your personal data and any police officer that has an excuse to look. 2 emails. Now look, there's an upside. A lot more crime gets solved. We all don't mind it when it comes to figuring out who robbed the Baskin Robbins or who broke into the lumberyard. The problem is, in order to allow that, that means anybody with nefarious intent has just as easy access. The chances are, as long as I knew the correct questions to ask, and I'm just saying this hypothetically, but the chances are, as long as I knew the correct questions to ask and the correct terminology to use, I could probably message Google and ask them for data on MEIDs that pinged off this tower during this time, and then ask them to unmask them after that. And as long as I sounded the part, most likely, I'd get the information. Because they have a right to give it to you. You told Google they can do whatever they want with your information. Nobody's demanding Google be held accountable, so who cares? Because most people aren't aware it's happening. It amazes me that video, not the Eagle Eye video, that was just proving the point, but this video with this guy,
truly do, but we can't ignore what we're actually learning in this situation.
it amazes me that
First, it was
anybody
the doorbell
feels the
that
need to
was
say this
recording,
at this
even
point.
though she didn't have a subscription. Now it's helicopters sniffing pacemakers from 1,000 feet in the air, and somehow we're being told it's just innovation. Just watch how this is framed. It's presented as heroic, cutting edge, life-saving. And emotionally, that works. Because when a story centers around rescuing an 84-year-old missing woman, nobody wants to be the person asking the hard questions. And that's exactly how narrative control works. A technology that could feel invasive is introduced as cool and innovative, almost safe. Aerial tracking becomes protection. Signal interception becomes urgent. And now surveillance is framed as compassion. And once something feels compassionate, that's when the scrutiny gets a lot softer. This tech didn't just get invented last week, y'all. It's just that now's the first time most of us are hearing about it. And the framing always matters. Because if it works with a missing person, what's going to define the boundary tomorrow? I'm definitely not trying to scare you. I'm trying to help you notice the patterns. Just pay attention to how powerful tools get introduced. That's usually where the shift happens. I can't wait to hear what you have to say in the comments.
So,
I'll see you there in a second.
The fact that would even need to be said at this point is what is really disheartening.
I really hope they...
I feel like a lot of people have just accepted it. But the fact is, it's not something we should just roll over and accept. Not in this country. This is the only country on earth where we are supposed to have these kinds of protections from our government. And yes, it means it's harder to solve some crime. Yes, it means that some criminals are probably overall going to get away with stuff that we could probably solve if we just gave the government access to every camera, every microphone, every GPS, every altimeter, every, what else what did I say? Gyro and whatever else on Earth. But the consequences that come with that aren't worth it. Better 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man be locked up, or whatever the phrase is. The problem is that's a lot harder to commit to than I think most Americans have realized these days. We used to understand it. Everybody wants the freedom still. Nobody wants the responsibility that comes with it. Part of that responsibility is accepting that if your government has limitations on how they can interfere with you, that also means they have limitations on how they can interfere with criminals. And it means that your security is much more often your responsibility. Everybody on the left is unwilling to accept that these days. They will give up every bit of freedom they have for the promise of more security. The problem is the government overpromises and underdelivers on everything they do. Unfortunately, many on the right these days also. It's just laziness, I think, more than anything. I don't want to have to show up to PTA meetings. I don't want to have to, do whatever is necessary to get Google to demand warrants first. I'm not a policymaker, so I'm not going to pretend to have every answer for how to solve these things. But you have to be willing to take some time out of your cushy life if we're going to fix some of these problems. Most people don't want to do that. Most people don't want to get their own lives together, let alone fix some of the bigger problems in this planet. They just want someone else to do it for them. But then, when someone else does try to just do it for them, they don't like the way that someone else does it exactly. Like any conservative right now that's complaining about the deportations. Did you really think that the left wasn't going to set their hair on fire and scream that Donald Trump did it when we started deporting people? Did you really think that people were just going to willingly allow ICE to detain them and be deported? It was always going to be messy. It was never going to be easy, and it was never going to look pretty. The fact is, ICE agents are not out there roughing up minorities and shooting people at will. That's not happening. I'm not going to get back into pretty and good. We've already been through it ad nauseum. But unless you are chasing ICE officers around, harassing them, you don't have anything to worry about. Unless you're here illegally, or overstayed a visa, or here on a fake asylum claim, etc., or are married to somebody that is one of those things, or your parents are one of those things, I guess. In which case, if both your parents are illegal, you should be too. Sorry. I don't believe in birthright citizenship. Not that exclusively. But anyway, if you thought it was just going to be easy peasy, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry it's not being done to the way you want it, I guess, but it never was going to be, and that was an unrealistic expectation. That, I think, is one of the most frustrating things, is the people who agree with you that as soon as there's a credible reason to dip, because that's the easier thing to do, they do. They don't stand on the conviction. Oh, that's not very pretty. So, yeah, that's not what I meant. Okay, well then how would you do it, genius? How are you going to do it better? How are you going to make these people that have been trying to evade law enforcement for 20 freaking years more willing to come with you? I'd love to hear it. We've already offered them cash money and a free ticket and the ability to come back. It still wasn't enough. I don't know what else we can do. Do we want to make fun of these cultural appropriation idiots? Do we want to watch a radical feminist? What else? Why people are childless? Or let's go conspiracy theory. It's Monday. We're not doing anything that's professional anyway. Let's go radical conspiracy theory time.
In the 1930s,
I love the music.
The Rothschild-Rockefeller Alliance, they began funding scientific studies to look at how music...
Rothschild-Rockefeller. I really need to look deeper into the Rockefeller specifically, because from what I understand today, and I've never specifically looked into Rockefeller. I obviously know some history about him just based on my studies on early 20th century, but I've never like specifically gone, okay, I'm going to tear apart the Rothschild or the Rockefellers. But from what I understand today, Rockefellers were oil, right? Or am I conflating that with what were the Rockefellers on? That's not really the right way to word it, is it? Yeah. He controlled 90% of U.S. oil refineries and a third of all oil wells. These people stood in antithesis to the progressives that were trying to radically transform the United States. It was the progressives like FDR that dismantled the oil companies. The people of America did not want Standard Oil disassembled because Standard Oil made oil cheaper than ever before. The concern was that he could just jack up prices unfairly. Nobody was complaining about that, though, because he hadn't. And while maybe he would have one day and people would have turned against him, the American people didn't want him taken apart. They didn't really stand in the way because they did recognize the concern of two big monopolies. But it wasn't this grassroots ground up thing. It was the progressives wanting to make sure that there was no single source that had the money and ability to push back against what they were doing. They had done it already. They were willing to do it again. I don't want to get in. We've gone through progressives early 20th century many times, but from what I understand, the Rockefellers stood in opposition to the progressives. And if that's the case, that automatically makes this nonsense. Now, this is nonsense for other reasons, but
frequencies can prepare the masses for war. And that's because they wanted to control people. They want that mind control programming. And so in 1938, there was a gentleman named Harold Brosmeyer, and he was a theatrical designer and a sound engineer. And he began developing techniques that would control the emotional response of audiences and to create mass hysteria. And so from there, you have this, this Rockefeller-Rothschild alliance. What they were doing is not only were they looking at ways to steer the masses, but they wanted to change the standard tuning of A to 440 hertz. So in 1939,
I'll explain that in a second.
They began funding Joseph Goebbels, who was the Nazi propagandist. And at that time, Joseph Goebbels, he wanted to change the standard tuning of A. And so he organized a meeting in London to do that. Now, up until that time, the standard tuning of A was set at 435 hertz, and that was from a conference in Vienna in 1889. But they wanted to shift it to 440 hertz. And so Radio Berlin approached the British Standard Association.
just real quick, I'll explain what all this means in a second for anybody that's unaware. But notice she said the standard was already 435. They're claiming that DNA needs to be in tune with the frequency of 432. So already there's a mismatch here in what is being claimed. In order for our body and cells to function normally and healthy. And of course, it goes back to the Nazis, right? But let me let her finish.
And asked if they would organize this conference in London, which was a total setup in which, the powers that be had control of what the outcome was going to be. And they didn't invite any of the French musicians because they were opposed to 440 hertz. And then the organizers of the conference, they interviewed musicians, the instrument makers, the physicists, and then also the sound engineers. And if any of those people were against 440 hertz, then they weren't invited to the conference. So it was all controlled. And, as a result, it's not surprising that the standard tuning of A was changed to 440 hertz. And that happened June 1939, just months before World War II broke out. And the timing of that is no coincidence because 440 hertz is a destructive frequency. And that, it can retrain our thoughts towards disharmony, disruption, and disunity.
We need to be mindful of what we're putting in our environment, what we're listening to, what we're consuming on a day-to-day basis. This music is frequency programming. It's programming you.
Then why did you put it behind the video?
Remain in a place of fear, a place of doubt, a place of lack, a place of scarcity. This is frequency programming, and people are not aware of the malevolent forces that are out there trying to control you every single day. So be mindful of what you're listening to. Be mindful of what you're allowing within your aura.
Notice people like this never tell you how to be mindful. They just say be mindful. Well, how? If you don't know, if everything is 440 hertz, and I'll explain what that means in a second. How do you avoid it? I guess you're just screwed. I'm going to see if I can play the difference here between 432 and 440. Apparently, if you're on YouTube, it won't matter. Because supposedly YouTube automatically, I don't remember if that was from this video or something else I read when I was looking this up myself earlier. But supposedly YouTube automatically converts to 440 hertz, which would make sense if that is considered the low frequency. I can tell you this. So what they're saying is, obviously, hertz, that's how many vibrations in a second. What they're saying is the natural tuning of instruments prior to this convention 2 months before the outbreak of World War II, which I'll tell you why that's bullshit here in a second, just in and of itself, that claim. But prior to that, it was 435 or 432. Again, there's discrepancy between the video and the text overlay on it. But regardless, that is what the lowest key A was set to. Lowest, highest. 24. It would have to be lowest, right? Because you can only hear from like 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. 20,000 hertz, much higher pitch. And there are some humans that can go just a little bit beyond that, but that's kind of like the range of human hearing. 20,000 or 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. I believe I have that. Let me double check real quick. This is all basic, like audio information these days. So this is not secret information I'm giving you here. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my EQ because that'll tell me what the range is. Yeah, 20 hertz to about 20,000 hertz. And realistically, the average person, because of your different, problems with your ears, things like that, realistically, you're going to be more like probably 40 hertz to maybe 15,000. And then, obviously, people that they can hear those higher pitch noises you can't quite hear, vice versa, right? You can hear these high pitch noises they can't hear. That's just because of how good your ears are, basically. Even too much earwax in your ear can start limiting those higher pitches. Regardless, the claim was that A was set to 432. And being that A was set to 432, every subsequent note after that is set in proportion to what you set A to. So you tune A to exactly, these days, 440 hertz. Now you tune everything else based off of that 440. And so you're shifting everything up by 8 hertz, essentially. Either 5 hertz or 8 hertz, depending if you believe the 432 or 435. Here, I'll show you just for a little bit of visual. This is the audio program that I use. You see if I can, there's got to be a way. I know I've had it on screen before. Actually, you know what? The easiest way will just be like this. Do this. Of course it's not showing up. Why wouldn't it show up? I don't see any reason I can't show the whole screen. All right, there you go. So this is the audio program that I use to record this show, the audio podcast for the show. And this is the standard EQ here. I have this off right now because it's a post EQ and it causes a long delay in my headphones. So actually, let's do this. Let's look at the actual EQ I'm using at the moment. Which, by the way, if you're an audio engineer and you see something obvious that I'm doing wrong, please tell me. I'm not a professional at this by any means. Why don't I see my regular EQ? Okay, well, never mind. We'll just do this then. Currently, I guess that's one of my problems. There we go. Okay, so now you can see when I'm talking, now you can see it show up on the equalizer. Down here is your lowest hertz. This would theoretically be 20 right here. You can see, why is it not? I don't know why I can't adjust it. Anyway, and then this is your high, your 20K up here. And there's all kinds of different adjustments in between that we can do. So you can see I can adjust between 20 and 20K. Okay. So the claim is by changing A to 440 hertz, you've now shifted every note up 8 hertz. And supposedly this frequency being out of tune with your body now means that you are more angered when you hear like music, for example. The fact is, this is nonsense. I'm going to shift this over just a little bit so you can actually see me for the time being. Or actually, you know what? Never mind. Instead of doing that, should be able to... Why is this? What if I do this? Get rid of browse. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to make it so that you can see me and see what we're talking about. We'll just do it like that. There we go. Oh. Great. Back to this. Now we'll do the... One of these, I will get this right. I promise I will get this right. Give me just a second here. There's too many options for me to try and do while I'm thinking on the fly. There we go. Now you can see me, and you can see me talking as well on the EQ. So, if you were just to shift everything back to 432 hertz for A, everything would be peaceful. Now, there is truth to the fact that music affects your mood. We all know this instinctively. Everybody is aware of this. You listen to some music, it gets you amped up. You listen to some music, it calms you down. You listen to other music, and it affects you in other ways, right? Some music makes you sad, some makes you happy. There's all sorts of different ways in which music can affect you. But can altering the frequency by such a slight amount actually make that big of a difference. No. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to prove it to you here, although I will try. I'm going to pull up a Hertz generator here in a second, and I will be able to confirm visually with, probably not this tool, but a different tool. We'll be able to confirm on screen that we are actually listening to 432 hertz. But I don't know if you are actually going to hear it at that, because I can't control the way that it is encoded through my encoder and then through whatever platform you're listening on. I can tell you if you're on YouTube right now, which it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people watching on YouTube right now, so that's fine. But if you are on YouTube right now, you're not going to hear it at 432 hertz because it is at that lower frequency. Or it automatically adjusts it, rather, to the higher 440. But there have been a lot of claims revolving specific frequencies. Let me get this off screen here. Get myself back up. There we go. And get this squared away so that I can pull up the generator. I think that's about right. Hard to say. Make it a little smaller. There it is. Okay. All right. Let's see. Fix that. There we go. You might have heard of the what is it? The brown note. This was another World War II claim, right? Where a specific frequency can make you have to number 2. No, I don't have a particular issue saying it. I just don't want to get some stupid strike on one of these platforms for saying it. There were also claims of frequencies that make you a lot scareder. There is some truth to that. There's a reason that they use screeching noises and sounds like babies crying and children playing and things like that in creepy movies. There's a reason why those like high violin notes help kind of add to that adrenaline. So I don't want to say that there's no truth to frequencies having an effect on you. They do. Or sounds, rather, having an effect on you. But it's a little bit more logical, and it's certainly this idea that all music is meant to make you more agitated and uncomfortable because it's shifted up 8 hertz. First of all, 90% of people are not going to be able to tell the difference between 432 hertz and 440 hertz, or 435 hertz and 440 hertz especially. It's just not that much. Again, you can hear all the way from 20 to 20,000. So we're talking about a very small difference. On top of that, I think much more compelling evidence to myself is if that were true, and I looked earlier, there is none of this, but if that were true, we would have documents of it. We have documents of almost everything the Nazis did. Their government works very similar to ours. Every top secret program that they run, there are endless documents about it. We gathered all of those at the end of the war. We literally brought back any document that we could find to be analyzed in Washington after the war to go through secret weapons programs and research, energy, all of these different things, right? That's where a lot of these fantastical ideas come from. Because just like our government, they occasionally looked into fantastical things. There are some crazy things that they discovered, but nothing that's out of the realm of our physical or chemical understanding. As far as audio, there's a much simpler reason why some of those noises make us afraid. Or it's not that it automatically triggers fear necessarily. It's more that it triggers it triggers your attention. And so when you add beats, like bass notes behind it that are roughly at the rate of heart rate and then slowly pick them up and things like that, our mind interprets it a certain way. But these tiny little frequency changes, there's just no evidence of that. There's no evidence that a very specific frequency. And even if so, this idea that all humans on Earth are out of tune because of this is silly. There is nothing that all humans on Earth have in common except for that we breathe oxygen and need water and food. Other than that, virtually everything else is different. It would basically mean that if you got too much earwax in your ear, even if everything was at 432 or 435 hertz or was based off of that, you would be just angry your whole life, I guess. Does that really seem logical? And by the way, I realized I forgot an important detail. Part of the reason that those shrieking sounds and high-pitched noises, certain frequencies, can affect us, like, I'll give you an example here. Just a second, I gotta dig through these files. Just take a second. Here you go. So a sound like that. I apologize. I didn't realize that was going to be so loud. A sound like that. There's a reason why that instantly has an effect on you. And what it comes down to is babies. It comes down to your natural instinct to respond to a baby's cry. A lot of those notes that are used in horror movies and things like that, I'm sure you've seen the videos online before where you have like normal film footage and then they add the horror movie effect to it where they gray the color out a bit and then they add in the creepy music and the shrieky, screamy sounds. Those are all based on notes of a baby crying. And so it immediately gives you that, okay, there's a baby that is in danger or that is hurt or that needs something, that kind of animalistic or instinctual response in you. It's less to do with the specific frequency itself, if that makes sense. Now, let's see what we can find for... Let me see. I should have looked before the show, but I didn't. But I'm going to see if I can get a tone generator here real quick that'll let me do both 432 and 435. Yeah, okay, right here. That was easy. I kind of figured it would be, but... All right. I don't hear anything at all, so either I'm deaf... Oh. Oh, shit. I'm going to turn it down. Okay, so that's 400. There you go. That's 432 hertz. Now, let me make sure that's actually 432. We'll go back over here. Hold on, let me double check. Yes, I can put you guys on screen again. All right. So, as you can see, it's playing 432 hertz. Now, let's check whether or not we're actually hearing 432 hertz, and we're going to do that via this tool. I believe this one is what we want. And no, I don't want it there. I want it on output. So I want to know exactly what is going out of the computer. Okay. So I'm actually going to move this off screen for... Oh, shoot. It's staying on the window, isn't it? Okay. Hang tight. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. And let me see. Spectrum. Perfect. $400. Oh, the other thing is, the last piece of this, by the way, is that she claims it was 2 months before World War II that they made this change. That is also not true. It was the 1950s that we all agreed on 440 hertz. So that alone should kind of blow it out of the water. But, and I'm looking at the spectrometer here, which I'll put it back on screen for you. And it actually, if I go to 440 hertz, which is like right in the middle of the board, having a hard time finding it. 427, that says that's note A3. GF. Now, look, I don't understand notes as well as I should for somebody that does a lot of audio stuff. A2 is all the way down to 200. So, I don't know. It shows us all the way down here. I don't know exactly what this means. I don't know if she's talking about specifically on like a piano or a particular instrument. I just don't know because it's not my area of expertise. But, all right, let's play the note. 432 hertz. Now let's go back here. And it should be this guy right here. Well, first we can see we're getting more than just that note. But second, I can also see that this is not a fine enough reading. So I'm going to stop that. And you can too, if you have... if you can listen to this on your computer, you ought to be able to determine that. I mean, if you're on your fucking computer, just go to one of these websites, generate the tone. But you could also check to make sure you're actually hearing it at 430, or 432. But we need this to go to a finer range. Oh, here we go. 432, 440. All right, so now we are only looking at 432 hertz to 440 hertz. So when it shows up, it should show up right here, and we'll be able to see within, it looks like 1/10 of a hertz, whether it's accurate. I'm going to make this a little bigger. There we go. All right, let's see what happens here. $433.5. Now that could be because of this. All right, so it's coming to you now. Again, I can't be for sure that you're hearing this at the correct tone because I can't control the encoding. But according to this, we're just a little bit high, so I'm going to go just a little bit lower. Now, did you hear the difference there? No matter what you're hearing at, can you hear a difference between that Or that? I wouldn't imagine so. Let me switch this back over to 12th octave. No, apparently I do one on an FFT. There we go. Now we're in the 432 range. So this is the 432 range right here. This is where 433 starts. You can see when I'm talking, it's adding more. But this is the note by itself right here. And it is basically across the whole 432 to 433 range. So I'm going to turn it down even just a slight bit more. I'm going to go to the finest. Looks like we went too low. Sorry, if I could turn it down more, I would, but I can't. There you go. So it looks like it's not that pure. As you see, we have a little bit of a drop off over here. But that is pretty darn close. So now we've heard the 432. Now let's hear the 440 and see. Whoa. If we can tell a difference. Does that sound any different to you at all? Are you getting enraged right now? Let's take a look on the spectrum. So again, we're just a little bit on the low side of that, so we're going to go up a little bit. Yep, I went too high. I should have just gone one. Oops. Why every time I click on the wrong thing? Every single time. There you go. So now we're right at the 440. Now, I am feeling slightly enraged because, damn, that's annoying to listen to for that long. But you really can't hear any difference. Like, you can't make out any difference. And I guess that's the point, right? The claim is, well, you can't hear the difference, but one's making you angry, one would make you calm. It really is just silly. All right, so now that we know that it needs to be 1 over, I'm gonna do it a little short demonstration again here. So this is your angry note. Okay. And this is your calm note. Can't tell the difference. And this one definitely angers me just as much as the other one. And the problem is it's already like suggestive doing this because you're suggesting that one is an angry note and one is a calm note. So you're already kind of putting that in your head, but I know we've gone a long way out of our way to disprove this conspiracy, but this is why you don't believe everything you see on the internet, of course. And it's also why it's also good information because, especially if you have kids, first of all, these videos sound so convincing. When you have an authoritative figure, especially somebody that is convinced themselves, it sounds like good information, even though it's just not. It's really not. Just for shits, I will very briefly play 20,000. I just want to see if I can hear it. Wow, I can actually hear it. But I don't think that I'm actually hearing the 20K. I think what I'm hearing is the... If you can hear that and it's loud, sorry. But my hearing is not quite that good. But what about one? Nope. I think what I'm hearing is the artifacts, not the... Because it's not perfectly clean sound. That's why you were seeing where we were getting... The main tone was in the correct 10th, but then there was some splash going down either side. It's because it wasn't perfectly clean audio. But, all right, enough of that. Let's move on to the next thing now that we've thoroughly debunked the Nazis are making our music angry conspiracy theory. At least as good as we're going to be able to. Now, I physically can't tell the difference between the two. I also just believe the theory is nonsense in general because there's been a lot of this frequency does X theories, and a lot of them are easy to prove, right? Like the claim of the brown note. We've been able to adjust sound on the spectrum. It's all just vibrations. We've been able to very, very accurately adjust sound on the spectrum. As you just saw, I was just using a free internet generator. And according to my rather sophisticated software, we were relatively close, within a hertz or two, with a little bit of splash on either side, but not much. That was very clean audio by modern standards. You got to remember, I was looking at, what is it, 65,000 bits? I forget exactly what it's called, but I was zoomed in basically as far as you could be zoomed in on it. And the splash was very, very little. So we've been able to very accurately do these things for a long time. And that means that if there is a specific note that, like, is going to make you jump off a cliff, we would have found it by now. It's not hard to test. These things are very easy to test. Anyhow, let's see what else we got here. So many things to try and keep up with at once. All right. Have we made any... I don't think we made fun of any leftists today. So let's make fun of Gavin Newsom, shall we? Let's get you on the correct feed. There we go. Switch you over. There she is. That's Discord. Let's lock Discord. Okay. Here we go.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech.
So he's retarded?
Business to be in. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you.
Okay, that's just repeating itself. So he literally is saying, and he's talking to Stephen A. Smith, it looks like. If I'm wrong about who that is, I apologize, but he's making a weird face.
I'm no better than you. All there, if you
is that not who that is? I don't know. If I'm wrong about who that is, then I might be. But And he's talking to a black audience, and he's basically saying, look, I'm retarded. I'm like you. I don't know what a good score on the SAT is, because I'm also retarded. But let's find out. What is a bad score, actually, on the SAT? And what is the score range? All right. Bad SAT score is generally considered below national average of 1050 to 1060. So Gavin Newsom is claiming he is so stupid that he can't read a script. Scores below 860 place you in the bottom 25%. He could have got a 960 then. Here's the thing. I don't believe he's so stupid he can't read. Obviously. It is entirely possible that he is that stupid. We tend to assign far too much intelligence to these people because they're competent at working a room. But frankly, you know, if Gavin Newsom is the type of guy that convinces you of things these days, like, same with, who is that guy that we watched his Surrounded the other day on the show? James Tallarico, running against Jasmine Crockett in Texas. This smooth-talking pastor. He is a pastor, but what he preaches is not biblical text by any means. And he's very Gavin Newsom-esque and, you know, says all the right things. And what does he say? Nothing. He says nothing at all. He just says agreeable slogans. That's it. If in 2026 somebody like this convinces you of anything, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. You legitimately should not be allowed to vote. I'll give you an example of James Tallarico here. And what I mean by if this kind of thing sways you. Find his promo video. Okay, here's one of his promo videos right here.
Our country is not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. Billionaires want us looking left and right at each other so that we're not looking up at them.
That's what billionaires want. Okay, now he's laid out a problem. Okay, that's fine. Now listen for any solution whatsoever besides they should pay more and you should pay less. That's not a solution. That's a theory, and a theory that's been proven wrong many times. I mean, the general idea they should pay more, poor people should pay less, that's not necessarily wrong. But obviously what he means by it, socialism, doesn't work out. Redistribution of wealth doesn't work out. But listen for any specific details on how to fix any of the problems. Instead, he's just going to say platitudes.
The people at the top work so hard to keep us angry and divided.
How do they do that, James?
Our unity is a threat to their wealth and their power.
Oh.
So their social media algorithms and their cable news networks tear us apart. They divide us by party, by race, by gender, by religion, so that we don't notice that they're defunding our schools, gutting our healthcare, and cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. It is the
schools are more funded than they have ever been. Rich people pay more taxes, I won't say than they ever have, but than they have in 30 years.
Oldest strategy in the world, divide and conquer. But we will not be conquered.
Yes, James.
We're underdogs in this fight. We're going up against those billionaire mega donors and their puppet politicians. We're going up against a rigged system.
He's not one of those.
And we're going up against a lot of money. But I'm a former middle school teacher. I don't scare easily. And Texans don't scare easily.
Yeah, he said Texans. This is Minnesota, but he said Texans.
Was a Baptist preacher in South Texas. He taught me that we follow a barefoot rabbi who gave 2 commandments: love God and love neighbor. Because there is no love of God.
He gave 10 commandments, not 2. And realistically, he gave a lot more than that. But whatever.
Without love of neighbor. Every single person bears the image of the sacred. Every single person is holy. Not just my neighbors who look like me, or pray like me, or vote like me. Those billionaires are trying to keep us from seeing all that we have in common. They're trying to keep...
He picked a common enemy. An enemy that nobody in that crowd would risk being. Right? There's no billionaires in that crowd. Except for the ones that are funding his campaign, of course. They might be there. Or at least their people are there. Because they got to make sure they watch everything he says. But... And then he just blames everything on that common enemy without offering any solution to it.
Keep us from realizing that there is far more that unites us than divides us.
Yeah!
Because once we do, we will come together. Across party, across race, across
accomplish
gender,
what?
across religion, to take power back.
To accomplish
ourselves
what?
And our communities.
Oh, to accomplish
2,000
power.
years ago, when the powerful few rigged the system, that barefoot rabbi walked into the seat of power and flipped over the tables of injustice. To those who love this state.
That's not...
To those who love this country.
An accurate...
To those who love our neighbors. It's time to start flipping tables.
Every single person in that crowd, unless they are literally just there collecting a paycheck for a commercial, and even then, I would still say you should not be allowed to vote. And it's not because James Tallarico is a Democrat. As soon as I find the next Republican that is doing this, I will gladly tell you the same thing about them. What did you learn about where he stands on anything other than he thinks there's only 2 commandments in the Bible? And he doesn't understand the story about Jesus flipping the tables in the tabernacle. Or not the tabernacle, the temple. That video is so egregiously generic that it's angering.
You say you like the wind.
Here's another one.
Going through your hair. Well, come on, roll with me.
Oh, look, Tallarico for Texas. Oh, look, he's driving all over the state, guys. Because he's a real one like you, driving around in his $2 million RV. All over the state. And most likely, he just paid somebody to drive the RV, and he will fly wherever that is. He's not sleeping in that RV. They don't do that anymore. The RV drives there, so you think he is, and then it drives to the airport in a nearby town, probably a small one where nobody's going to be. The private jet lands, he gets off, gets on the tour bus, and then he shows up. Finally here. And then after the rally, bus takes him back to private airport. He gets back in private plane, flies back to his town, wherever that is in Texas, goes and does whatever he does, while the bus drives for 2 more days to the next city. And maybe if he's going from one city that is, 60 miles from the next city, yeah, sure, he might take the plane and then do 2 rallies in a day, or 2 rallies in 2 days, or 4 or 5 rallies in 2 days. And then get back on the plane, take 4 or 5 days off, and when the bus gets to the next place, he'll get picked up at whatever the nearest little airport is. That is easily $1 million coach, first of all. So he's got a billionaire funding him one way or another. It's not grassroots. He wouldn't have had the money for the truck yet. He's running for a House seat. That's not a big ticket seat. I mean, it's federal, so it is bigger ticket than a state House seat. But it's not, he's not generating 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 million dollars by any means. He might get between 1 and 5. Would he have 2 million to drop on a bus? No. I mean, not if he wants to win anything. You know how much a commercial costs? One commercial during a primetime event costs a lot of money.
The government.
This was one of the worst. So I listened to this whole episode of Bill Maher with Lauren Boebert and James Tallarico. Look, Lauren Boebert sucks. She ends up in the right place on opinions, but she's terrible at trying to explain them. And it allows somebody like James Tallarico, who's not actually saying anything, to just walk circles around them. I'm not sure I want to get it. I'm going to save this one for tomorrow because I don't want to get into that just yet. Let me see.
Or sexual orientation or immigration status or religious affiliation. And so in Texas, I'm constantly battling Christian nationalism, a bill that forces every public school teacher to put up a poster of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, I'm going to save that too because that's part of it. Unfortunately, both of those were on the same subject, so I'm going to wait because I want to dive into that a little bit deeper tomorrow. But oh, he's celebrating the Chinese New Year by going to an arcade for some reason. Let's see how he does on the spot.
Get over here. A bunch of, 30, 45-year-old Miss Ochoa, come over here. Get over here. It's good to see you. This was my AP when I was here. Hi. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, he went back to his high school.
Well, come over here. Come over here. This is Miss Ochoa.
I'm an art facilitator now in the district.
Okay,
yes,
wonderful.
my 25th year.
Well, wonderful.
So I was here when he taught here.
This is Miss Ochoa, and I can't even remember what she taught me.
6th grade.
That's right.
Amazing. I remember going and just sitting in his classroom because his students were so engaged and just loved him. He was an amazing teacher.
My bad.
I get
Not
emotional.
His teacher.
Appreciate
because
co-worker.
you were amazing here.
Thank you for saying that.
Wasn't he amazing?
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so
Thank you,
happy
Miss
for
Ochoa.
you.
Thank you for being here.
And I'm Team Tallarico.
Hey, I appreciate
Everybody,
that.
Team Tallarico.
Thank you. Thank you. A bunch of...
That was extremely awkward. It's great he was a great teacher. Maybe. I mean, it depends on what that actually means, but...
Oh. As a teacher, this is the dream.
Here's just a video with some music and him doing Texas things. I'm a Texas guy. I was trying to find, he had one other promo video. He has like 2. And it was just as bad as that one. And I was just wanting to show how just absolutely terrible it is.
Political
But
movement.
here,
That is
we'll watch
well, for 50 years, the
this
religious
instead.
right
Hold there.
political movement. That is the perfect description for it. They convinced a lot of our fellow Christians that the most important issues were abortion and gay marriage. Two issues that aren't mentioned in the Bible, two issues that Jesus never talked about. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells.
Okay. Even if you're not religious, I hope you recognize that both of those statements are untrue. Abortion and gay marriage are discussed in the Bible. Now, could you say there are other things that are more discussed? Yes, absolutely. Is it the most important thing? No, maybe not. But again, they focus on the division things because it keeps us from agreeing on anything. But he claims he's a preacher. Two things that are not discussed in the Bible, except they clearly are.
This exactly
And I don't,
how
it's so obvious that they are. I'm not even going to cite sources because just look.
You and I and every one of our fellow believers, how we're going to be judged and how we're going to be saved. By feeding the hungry, by healing the sick, by welcoming the stranger. Nothing about going to church, nothing about voting Republican. It was all about how you treat other people.
When was the last time you fed the sick, Tallarico? When was the last time you fed the sick? Or healed the sick, sorry.
I've said before, don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe. And I think
what a statement.
Faith, we've got to get back to those fundamentals. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas.
Well, he really leans on that hard, doesn't he?
He told me that Christianity is a simple religion. Not an easy religion, he would always clarify, but a simple religion because Jesus gave us two commandments. Love God.
Again with the two commandments things. Everybody knows there's 10 commandments, and those are not the total sum, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of actual, commandments by the literal meaning of the word in the Bible. Those are just the 10 he gave Moses. Those are the 10 most important commandments. I guess I am your God, that's number 1. And love your neighbor. I don't think it's actually written as that, though. Let me double check. I know I should know this better, but I don't. Maybe if they were in my classroom when I was in elementary school, I would remember them better. Shall not murder, shall not commit adultery, shall not steal, shall not bear false witness, you shall not cover your neighbor's house. Yeah, I didn't think so. There's nothing in here about loving your neighbor. Are there things in the Bible about loving your neighbor? Sure, but what that means is not what he's trying to imply it means. So, number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. Number 2, you shall not make yourself an idol. Number 3, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. Number 6, you shall not murder. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Number 8, you shall not steal. Number 9, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And number 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or anything that belongs to your neighbor. I didn't hear love thy neighbor in there.
And love neighbor. And there was no commandments. Love God and love neighbor. And there was no exception to that second commandment. Love thy neighbor regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation or immigration status or religious affiliation. And it's why I have fought so hard for the separation of church and state in the state capital in Texas, because...
And that goes to what he talks about tomorrow, because Lauren Boebert correctly brings up the point that there is no such thing as a separation of church and state in the United States. And she incorrectly says that comes from the Federalist Papers. It does not. It comes from a specific letter written by Thomas Jefferson to a church that congratulated him on winning the presidency and offered to give him a blessing or something like that to endorse him, essentially. To which he said, because I believe in a separation of church and state, I don't remember, I'm paraphrasing. I would prefer not to do that because I want everybody to see me as their president or something like that, right? Now, keep in mind, he would be the first president. He was the fourth total. He was the fourth president linearly, but he would be the first president to actually say something like that. The first three actually held church in the White House. But that is the only place that it is mentioned. It's not a legal document. It's not even a prescription for what the government should be. In the First Amendment, is right here. I actually remember what page it's on now. You have the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Neither of those things. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. None of those things. Neither of those things, I guess, suggest that the government cannot be influenced by Christianity, that the government cannot practice Christianity. What it can't do is no law respecting an establishment of religion. It cannot force you to follow Christianity. It cannot force you to be Christian or anything else. And it cannot prevent you, prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It cannot prevent you from practicing whatever you would like to as an individual. It does not mean that Christians cannot worship in public, pray in the state house, the president can't pray, yada, 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 on down the list. As they have done all through history until Barack Obama. And even he, I think, religiously prayed a few times. That is what the conversation with Bill Burr is about, and that's why I wanted to wait till tomorrow to get into it. But yeah, the whole point, going back to this, is that if you are swayed by one of these politicians, left or right, you should not be allowed to vote. Like the fact that somebody that is just a slick talker like Tallarico, but is blatantly incorrect about what he's saying, and not saying anything specific at all, he's just a salesman. If you are swindled by that in 2026, you are too stupid to vote. That's my opinion. It that simple. You're too stupid to vote. Take that for what it's worth, I guess. All right, what's next? We can look at this West Virginia bill to introduce machine guns. Let me see. I wanted to see. I had one more video here we could play. All the videos I got are short today. We have Stephen King making an idiot of himself. All right, I'll play this one. This should do it.
Here, look, I'm 30 years old. Not one of my friends has children. Zero. No one. No one's having kids. Do you know how hard you need to abuse a mammal to make them not have children? Like, look, GDP goes up. People have have enough food, you know, and whatever. No one's having kids, and this is across the world. This is across both the West, the East, you know, everywhere it's happening. So why do I not have kids? And the answer to that is I don't really know. This is the weird thing. So there's a thing that happens, especially with younger like even younger than me. Like the kids are like 18 today. There's a huge problem where they don't dance. No one dances. They go to clubs and they don't dance. Why is this? Because you get recorded. If you're an 18-year-old kid, you go to a club, you get recorded. If you approach a girl and you mess it up, you get recorded. Everything is panopticon now. So if you had to ask me why, my answer is technology. My answer is social media. My answer is AI. My answer is algorithms. Right. I think there's a deep thing where we as a society have not dealt with the fact that we have to steward technology responsibly. We have treated technology as a Wild West. Absolutely. Just everyone can do whatever they want. You know, just sell all of our younger generation's dating lives to corporations for profit. And who pays the cost for this? Who has liability for every person who doesn't find the love of their life because the whole dating market is fucked up? Who pays for this? No one. There is no responsibility.
So research shows that fertility it's several things. It is technology. It's also the economy. So it's a lot more expensive. To some extent, it's also women getting more into education, which is a good thing. It's also pollution. So sperm counts have dropped 50%. They have halved over the past few decades, and we think it's because of industrial pollution. So all of this goes back to the economic system. That's why we keep creating these dopamine loops in our technology. Instead of connecting one another, you can get a lot more by making the suggestion of connection, and then people keep coming back. Simulacrum is a lot more profitable.
So what do you guys think about that? That technology is the ultimate reason that kids are not getting together, they're not pairing off, they're not having kids. And when I say kids, I mean young adults are not having kids. I think that is 50% of it. Maybe that's 75. I think the other 50 or 25%, you know, we can weight it in different ways, but I think the other half of it, one way or another, is feminism. It has completely turned the natural order on its head. It has completely turned the way that men and women have interacted for 7,000 years plus, but 7,000 years of documented human history on its head. It seems to me that it would be no surprise that would cause problems in relationships. Aside from that, there's also the issues of we've incentivized it through government, through welfare and such. You're far better off having a kid but staying single. And even if you stay together as a couple, by claiming two different addresses and the mom claiming the kids as a single parent, you can be on all the welfare. Dad can still earn all the money as long as he can register at a separate house, and there's no issues. Now, you're a shitty American if you do that. But that is what the government incentivizes. So there is some influence there too. I think that he makes a good point. And this was kind of the idea of the right to be forgotten bill in the UK. That's not the solution by any means. I appreciate that they were trying to find a solution. Government is not it. But But there's definitely something to that. The fact that everything you say, everything you do is monitored and remembered. It can't be forgotten. And anybody who meets you going forward will find it, will hear about it, will see it. And while we might think that would lead people to make smarter decisions, it seems mostly to make, especially kids, just make dumber decisions. Everybody hates it when I say it, but one thing that I have learned about women is everything they say they want is never true, and what they actually want is all the things they claim they don't. Now, that's a very generalized statement, and obviously there is some, there's a little bit of play there, but generally speaking, at least when it comes to a relationship, that's the case. In my opinion. By the way, shout out to the men's hockey team for winning. I know that's completely unrelated, but we didn't say that yesterday. It was nice seeing an American team win and be proud of winning as an American team. Be proud of being American. It's sad that that's rare these days, but it is. So it was nice to see. That said, I'm not sure what the hell Cash Patel's doing. You got work to do, bud. Get back to it. All right. I wanted to go to this video. And then I think we'll get out of here for today. It's been a slow Monday. Like I said, there wasn't really anything to cover as it is. And so I've kind of just been babbling anyway. All right. Let's just, let's get at it. This is one of the videos I described at the beginning of the show. So these are people throwing snowballs at two NYPD officers who very clearly are not, like, oh, haha, we're playing along type thing. Oh, suddenly, no, I don't want any trouble now.
How you accomplish snitching? You good? You okay? How you doing?
Okay. Here's the thing. Obviously, matter of fact, this is going to be one of those ones. I'm going to let it play while I'm talking. These cops were able to keep their cool. They shoved a couple guys down, but whatever. I don't have any problem with it. But here's what I want to say to the police officers out there, to cops out there across this country. These are the people that the politicians in charge of you protect. These are their people. The Antifa types, the criminal elements. These are the people that riot and loot, burn things. and you're told not to arrest, not to prosecute, just to ignore. These are the people that will pull a gun on you, and you will shoot in defense of your life and get put in prison for 20 years. Now, there's a whole nother group of people out here that believe in the real job that you do, the real job that you're supposed to do, which in this case, the average citizen, the taxpayers, the people that contribute to society wouldn't have one complaint to make if you cordoned off that park and arrested every single person there. And you could only get them petty charges for throwing snowballs, sure. But the point is, because those same politicians that control you don't like us, the people that contribute to society, the people that follow the law, the people that would have your back if you were alone on the side of the road and were getting attacked by one of these leftists, they don't like us. And they send you after us a lot. And the fact is, most of you refuse to stand up to it. And it makes it really hard for people like us to keep defending you over and over. To keep brushing it off when I get a ticket on my way home because I got a tail light out or because I was going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. Meanwhile, I get rear-ended by some crackhead that doesn't have a license plate, doesn't have a license, hasn't paid for tabs in 20 years, just stole $650 worth of shit from Walmart to trade for $20 in crack tonight, rear-ends me, and I got to pay for it out of my own pocket. And what are you going to do about it? Nothing. I understand. You're bound by the law. I understand that you're limited in specific things that you can do. There's a hell of a lot more you can do. Like, I don't know, refuse to write tickets to any law-abiding citizen. You want to know how quick those politicians will change their tune once their money stops coming in? Like, I don't know, band together, refuse to work for a leftist police chief, mayor. Come to those same people and say, we want to stand up with you, but we need your help. I'm talking in a lot of generalities right now, and that's for a reason. But hopefully the point is getting across. You will never see a conservative or regular law-abiding citizen, tax-paying contributor to this society, doing bullshit like this. Doing donuts in the middle of the street. Blocking traffic, creating a 6-hour traffic jam for people just trying to get home from work. And then just ignoring you when you try and pull them over. But if you keep doing this job at the behest of leftist politicians and protecting their minions, while punishing their opposition, who are those law-abiding citizens, you're putting us in a no-win position. You're putting yourselves in a no-win position. And the fact is, I've said this many times, during COVID, Washington State Patrol tried to fire every officer. Now, most police departments refused. Good on them. But Washington State Patrol, who's controlled by the mayor, or the governor, rather, and this happened in a lot more places than just Washington, I'm just using it as an example, fired every officer that refused to get vaccinated. Now, there was no reason for these officers to get vaccinated. We all remember how this went. And even if there was a reason, the government has zero authority to force it, yes, even on government employees, in my opinion. Not something that is that personal of a decision. But the rest of the State Patrol officers couldn't even stand up for their own. Now, you want us to stand up for you? All they had to do, the union didn't even stand up for them. All they had to do was refuse to come to work until those officers were kept on the job. The day that they were fired, every other State Patrol officer could have just refused to come to work until they were rehired. It would have taken at most a week. And yep, you would have lost 7 days worth of pay. But if it's not worth it for you for your own, then why is it worth it to us? You are making it. You are allowing it to be. You are not the one making it. The leftist politicians are the ones making it. You versus us. Us versus you. However you want to put it. But you're allowing it to be that way. You have the authority. We gave you that authority with the promise that you would go after the criminals, not the law-abiding citizens. And I have seen some changes, at least where I live. Maybe that's just partly a factor of me getting a little bit older. But other times I see stuff that if you do the right thing, we will back you. Whatever that is. I'm not suggesting anything, just to be clear, since I am talking in generalities, I'm not suggesting anything, untoward. I'm not using generalities to avoid promoting violence or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're given an order to do something that you know isn't right, that you know the average American would oppose, the average law-abiding American would oppose, refuse it. If you're being told not to arrest people for such and such thing that is very blatantly a crime, always has been, no law has been changed, but you're being told by policy. Refuse. Enforce the law. The people will back you. I see this video and I feel for these officers. But I can't help but recognize the irony that they'll put their heads down and walk away from this. If that was a group of Proud Boys, they wouldn't. Not that the Proud Boys would throw snowballs at police officers. If that was a group of just regular old conservatives in MAGA hats flying American flags, they'd probably track every single person down via cell phone video for the next 3 weeks. as they should. But they won't do it for the leftists. They'll only do it for one side. That is the problem, especially when you're doing it to the one side that will actually have your back. Let alone actually pays your paycheck. I know you don't like hearing it, but the fact is, without taxpayers, you have no job. By taking that job, you agree to serve the taxpayers. Not everybody in the community, the taxpayers. That's my only point. All right. X.com/JBU_show. You can watch on Rumble, YouTube, X, Twitch, and one of these days you should be able to watch on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm still having trouble connecting it and can't figure out why. You can send me an email directly, jbu@usa.com. Don't forget to check out my co-host, Austin, at millertalk.substack.com, and my other co-host at First Allen 2 on X, the American Sincerest podcast. Put it up there on screen for you real quick. And please like, follow, share, comment, do all those things. It greatly helps us in the algorithm. It helps the show get out there. And the quicker that we can do that, the better we can make the show for you. So, we greatly appreciate it, of course. And believe it or not, it's a lot harder than just sitting down and talking. I put a lot of time into this show, a lot of free time that I could be devoting towards something else that I'm making no money on and haven't for the last 4 years, 5, almost 6 years now. I do it because I like it. But it would sure be nice if I could do it and like it, if that makes sense. But that's up to you guys. All right. That's it. I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock West Coast time. Thank you guys for watching. And with that, my name is Chris, and this has been the Jolly Blue Unicyclist Podcast. Sorry, I couldn't read that. The JBU Show.
Bye, 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 bye. Wait, I want to be